Sarvopanishado gavo Dogda Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Amrutam Mahat. As we continue in the Gita lecture series, today in the 15th lecture we'll continue with chapter 3. Until now in chapter 3, Sri Krishna Bhagavan has told Arjun that you are part of a larger system. Everyone in the world is connected, so you need to make a sacrifice in this yagna. This sacrifice might be some of your desires, some of your time, some of your energy. You need to come out of your comfort zone, give up what you want to do to help everyone else. Everyone is connected. For the sake of greater unity amongst your family, community, and amongst the world, you need to make a sacrifice. And how can you do karma with this wisdom? Let me give you the example of Janak Raja, King Janak. After giving that example, Krishna Bhagavan, later in the 3rd chapter, he tells Arjun, Shreyan swadharmo vi gunaha, paradharmat svanushthitat, swadharme nidhanam shreya, paradharmo bhayavaha. In the 2nd chapter, 7th couplet, Arjun asks Sri Krishna Bhagavan, Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitame. Tell me what I need to hear, Shrey. And here Krishna Bhagavan answers that. He says, it's better to do your dharma poorly than to follow adharma very well. Swadharma means your dharma. Paradharma means somebody else's, which for you is adharma. Krishna Bhagavan says it's better to die in your dharma poorly than to do somebody else's dharma well, because there's fear in that. And there's going to be a lot of problems in that. What Bhagavan is telling him is that it's better to be responsible poorly than to be irresponsible very well. It's better to be bad at doing good things than good at doing bad things. It's like how certain people are very good at their hobby but are very bad at their job. What's your real responsibility here? After reminding him this, Krishna Bhagavan tells Arjun, Sadrusham cheshtate swasya Prakrute gnanavan api Prakriti yanti bhutani Nigraha kim karishyati. Krishna Bhagavan tells Arjun that even someone who is a gnanavan, now here gnani doesn't mean someone who's wise, here it means someone who just knows all the words of the scriptures. Even someone who seems to be very knowledgeable will act according to his or her nature. It's very difficult to defeat one's own nature, innate nature, the proclivities a person has. Here in Krishna Bhagavan's mind, he has Bhishma. Bhishma seems like a good person to the world. In 1981, Swami Atmanand came to the 200th birth anniversary of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. And in that grand festival in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, he explained in his speech why Krishna Bhagavan wanted to kill Bhishma first before he got to the other great warriors on the coat of army. He said that Bhishma appeared like he was good at dharma, but in reality, he was just adharma, wearing the coat of dharma. That's the worst type of dharma, or the worst type of adharma, the one that you can't recognize. And because of that, he appears like he's very wise, but really he's just knowledgeable. He knows scriptural references, but as it said, even the devil can cite scripture for his reference. The entire Shanti Parva chapter of the Mahabharata is over 18,000 couplets. That's longer than the Shrimad Bhagavad scripture as a whole. And that's all Bhishma's advice to Yudhishthir on how to find peace. And even after listening to 18,000 different pieces of guidance from Bhishma, Yudhishthir still didn't have peace. Because Bhishma himself in his heart didn't have peace. If you don't have it, how can you give it to somebody else? Bhishma Pita, he understood Krishna Bhagavan to be God. He understood his glory. He was ready to even die by his hands, but he wasn't able to take God's side in the war. He had shown Yudhishthira and Arjun different ways to win in the war, but all he had to do was switch sides and the war would have been prevented entirely. But he couldn't do it. And because of that, his innate nature of what he thought was right, he suffered. Now, this is a very unique situation. We have these natures in us, but it's very hard to get over them. Bhagwan Swaminarayan says, there's only one way to get over our very deeply rooted innate natures, and that's when Guru or God tells us something difficult for us to hear, gives us that bitter medicine, and guides us out of it. When can they actually tell us the truth about what we are? One can never really be honest with someone when they have some sort of selfish motive. If I need something from you, I can never be honest with you. But when you go to your guru, when you go to God, because they need nothing from you, from us, because they are completely selfless, they can give us real guidance. Arjun hears Krishna Bhagavan telling him all of these different things. He knows that his nature is at fault. He knows that something is pulling him towards sin. Something is pulling him to do things he doesn't want to do. And so he asks the question quite bluntly to Krishna Bhagavan. He says, Atha, now, let me stop you and let me ask you a question. Atha, kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichanapi varshnaya baladiva niyojitaha. I have no desire, anichan, and yet somehow something is forcing me to do these things. What is it? And Krishna Bhagavan responds in the 37th, the very next couplet of the 3rd chapter. He says, Kama esha, krodha esha, rajo guna samudbhava, mahashano mahapapma, vidyenam ihavairinam. Your desire, your anger, these proclivities, these innate natures that are in you, these are your real enemies. Not the enemies outside. Those Kauravas, those are another set of enemies. But your real enemies are the ones in your soul. The ones that are hurting you from within. Let me give you an example. In 1981, Pramukh Swami Maharaj established 2 schools at the same time. One in Sarangpur, a training center for all of the future Swamis, and another in Ahmedabad, a school of philosophy. In Ahmedabad, there was a teacher who would come and teach the different Swamis who were studying philosophy at the time. One day, the teacher didn't come. So the Swamis from the mandir, they phoned him. They wanted to make sure that everything was okay. And the teacher explained, he said, I was trying to catch a rickshaw to come to the mandir to teach the class, but as the rickshaw came close, there was water on the road and the water sprayed onto my clothes. And there's no way that I was going to come and teach with a stain on my clothes. We're worried about stains on our clothes. These natures are like stains on our soul. How can we get rid of them? Bhagavan Swaminarayan explains how we can overcome these natures using some of these sanctified words from Krishna Bhagavan. Vidyenam I havairinam. Bhagavan Swaminarayan explains, understand these innate natures to be your enemy. For example, if you're working for a promotion at work, and at that time, someone says something to the boss that ruins your chances for the promotion, and you find out, would you still have love towards them? No. Your enmity towards someone who's ruining your life builds over and over again. And the more you think about it, the more it amplifies. In the same way, these natures, these proclivities, have ruined all of our satsang. They're keeping us from getting closer to God. They're hurting us in our day-to-day life. And so we need to have a sense of enmity towards them. If we enjoy our natures, then God will be our enemy. And if we hate our natures, then God becomes our friend. It's as simple as that. For example, Duryodhan felt that greed was his friend, and so Krishna was his enemy. Ravan felt desire was his friend, so Ram was his enemy. We feel that disease is our enemy, so the doctor becomes our friend. If we're waiting in line for something and someone bumps into us, then we might get angry at them. But we go to the doctor of our own accord. We pay them out of our own pocket, and they cut our hands and feet, and after we're done, we thank them for it. Because we see the disease as our enemy, the doctor, no matter how much pain he puts us through, we see him as our friend. In the same way, if we see our natures as enemies, then God becomes our friend. Shri Krishna Bhagavan gives 2 examples predominantly in this couplet. Kama esha, krodha esha. Kam means desire. Krodh means anger. For example, in the Mahabharata, we know about the father of the Pandavas, King Pandu. King Pandu was born with a certain disease. One day, King Pandu, when he was traveling in the forest, he saw a deer coupling with another deer. And for whatever reason, in his mind, he decided to kill the deer at that time. He killed the deer, but then the deer turned into a human, and he found out that the deer was actually Kardam Rushi, the sage Kardam. The sage Kardam had changed his form so he could enjoy a certain type of bliss with his wife in that form. But after being killed in this form, as he was dying, he cursed Pandu. He said, "You killed me when I was coupling at the same time. If you ever do anything like this, that's the moment you die. Until then, you're safe." Now Pandu, all he has to do is control himself now, and he'll be fine. Pandu, one day, he's in the forest and he sees his wife taking a bath, and he can't control himself. He goes to be with her, and his wife Madri tries to stop him. She says, "You're cursed by Kardam, that if you do this, then you'll have a few moments of happiness, but afterwards you have to die." He knows he's going to die by doing this, but he's so overwhelmed, so overcome with his desire, that he stays with Madri, and right afterwards he dies. Kama Esha. He wasn't killed by anyone outside. He was killed by his own lust. Anger. There's a warrior on the Kaurav army by the name of Shrutayudha. Shrutayudha's mother performed austerities to please the god of the ocean, Varun. When Varunji was pleased, he came before the mother and he said, "What do you want?" Mother said, "I want you to protect my son, make him immortal. Make it so he can never die in the war." Varun said that that's impossible. No person on this earth can ever be granted immortality. Ask for something else. The mother said, "What's the next best thing? Give me an option where he's almost immortal." So Varun said, "Here is my mace, my weapon. I'm granting this to you to give to your son Shrutayudha. And on one condition, he will be immortal. As long as he never throws this weapon or uses it against someone who is weaponless in the war. If he's fighting against any other warrior, he'll always win. And if any other warrior hits him with any other weapon, he won't die. All he has to do is never use this weapon against someone who's fighting without any weapons." Mother thought that's a simple enough rule. She took the mace, she gave it to her son, and she explained that all you have to do is control yourself. Just don't fight against anyone who's not fighting against you. Don't fight against anyone who doesn't have any weapons. And now, Shrutayudha every day is killing thousands of people. Every time someone fights against Shrutayudha and they hit him with their sword, it just rebounds like hitting a sword against a piece of rock. Everyone is confused what to do, so they ask Sri Krishna Bhagwan. And Krishna Bhagwan is God. He understands. He knows what's happened. So he says, the only person who can stop Shrutayudha is me. The other Pandavas, they ask him, "Bhagwan, but how will Shrutayudha actually fight you in war?" "I'll do it." Krishna Bhagwan, throughout the day, goes near Shrutayudha's chariot, and he would just poke him. From time to time, just come right from the back and tap him on the back of his head. Sometimes he would drive past him and snicker, make a sarcastic comment. And he did this so many times throughout the day that Shrutayudha eventually got so frustrated and then got so angry that he took his mace and he threw it at him. And like a boomerang, when he threw the mace at Krishna Bhagwan, who had no weapons in the war, that mace swung around and hit Shrutayudha and killed him. Who killed Shrutayudha? His own anger. Because he couldn't control himself, he died. Kama Esha, Krodha Esha. Krodh. These are our two worst enemies. In the story of Vishwamitra, we see both of them and how he overcame both of them. Vishwamitra was a king, a Raja. One day, he and his entire army were traveling through the forest, and they entered into the ashram of the sage Rishi Vashishta. Vashishta, being a very pure and pious Rishi, he offered the king as much as he could eat. And then he said, "Why don't you spend the night here?" The king saw that this hermitage, this ashram is very small. There's no scope, and I don't want to be a burden on you. Vashi said, "There's no worry." And he took out one of his cows. This cow was special. This cow was called a Kama Dhenu. Like there are wish-fulfilling stones that if you hold in your hand and whatever you wish for appears, or wish-fulfilling mystical trees, that wherever you sit under that tree and wish for, it appears. In the same way, there are mystical cows called Kama Dhenu. Whatever you desire, Kamna, this cow, Dhenu, will give it to you. Vashisht took out a Kama Dhenu, and he said, "I have this in my ashram." And with that, he had a wish. He prepared huge kingdoms, palaces, just endless amounts of food, hot water showers, and everyone in the army, including the king, everyone was welcome to spend the night. Everyone enjoyed themselves. The next morning, as King Vishwamitra was leaving, he went to Vashisht and he said, "Give me this Kamadhenu. Give me this cow." Vashi said, "I can't give you this. I'll give you any other thing that you want, but this is the one thing that I have, and based on this, I survive in every other way. Vishwamitra said, this cow is a gem. Gems don't belong in huts like this. Gems belong in palaces. So give it to me. Vashish folded his hands and he said, there's no way, because if I give it to you, then what am I supposed to do here in my hermitage? Vishwamitra said, in exchange for this one cow, I'll give you 1,000,000 others. I'll give you as much gold, as much silver, as many diamonds as you want. You can have everything. Just give me this one cow. Vashish laughed. He said, this one cow is equal to everything that you're willing to give me, because if I want those things, then I can just ask the cow for it and it'll give it to me. Vishwamitra said, what do you ask for the cow? Vashish said that every day I need a certain amount of ghee, clarified butter, for my yagna rituals. I pray to the cow and it gives it to me. That's it? That's all you use this for? Vishwamitra couldn't take it anymore. He got angry, and he was so upset that Vashish wouldn't give him the cow after multiple requests that he sent his children to get the cow by force. The children and the army went to go grab the cow by force, and the cow saw it. In Vashish's mind, he thought to himself, it would be good if I had an army to fight against this army. Instantly, the cow produced an entire army. And that army was much larger. It destroyed everyone in Vishwamitra's army. Vishwamitra saw this, and he sent his children to now grab Vashisht. When they went near Vashisht, Vashisht just turned and made a sound, hu. And in that one hu, Vishwamitra's children were pushed to the ground. Vishwamitra thought to himself that I don't have any weapons or any army that can defeat Vashisht right now. So he left. He went into the forest, and for 1,000 years he performed penance, austerities, to please Shankar Bhagwan. When Shankar Bhagwan was pleased with him, Shankar Bhagwan asked, what do you want as a boon? Vishwamitra said, give me the knowledge of all worldly and otherworldly weapons so that I can fight against Vashisht. Shankar Bhagwan said, Tathastu. And in that, he attained instant knowledge on how to use every worldly and otherworldly weapon. And with this arrogance, he went into the forest to Vashisht ashram again. And he took, in one moment, threw every weapon he had at Vashisht. Vashisht very calmly just raised his walking stick, Brahma Dand, and ekena Brahma Dandena. He just shook it. All the weapons fell to the ground. And it was at this moment that Vishwamitra realized that there is something more powerful than any physical strength or any physical manifest weapon that you can have on this earth. He realized that Vashisht has inner strength. With a Brahma Dand, he has a Brahmi Sthiti connected to it. This state of enlightenment is more powerful than any physical power there is in the entire world. Vishwamitra thought to himself, I want this power. So he went back into the forest. 1,000 years he performed austerities and penance again. He pleased Brahmaji. And then as he was leaving the forest, he met another king by the name of Trishanku. The story behind Trishanku is Trishanku wanted to go into the lower heavens, the realm of Swarg, with his body. Now in Hindu Dharma, in our philosophy, to go to Swarg, you have to leave this body and your soul goes. He wanted to go with his corporal body. He went to Vashisht and he asked for Vashisht to perform a yagna sacrifice so that he could go to the heavens like this. Vashisht said no. So he went to Vashisht's children and asked them to perform a sacrifice. They already knew that their father had said no. So the children said, our father has already said no to you, and here you are coming to us like some beggar. We curse you now to become a beggar. And so Trishanku went back. Officially he's a king, but now by innate nature, he's acting like a beggar. None of his ministers, none of his citizens wanted to have any respect towards him or even wanted him as a king. He left the kingdom. And now he's in the forest. And in the forest, he meets Vishwamitra at this time. Vishwamitra asks him that you're a famous king. Why are you in the forest like this? And he explains his situation. Vishwamitra says, I'll send you to the heavens with your body. And he performs a yagna. Using all of his tapodhan, the wealth that he's accumulated through that penance. Not physical wealth, but spiritual wealth. He performs this sacrifice. Vashisht and his children, they find out about this sacrifice. Vashisht doesn't say anything, but Vashisht's children scoff at this. Eventually, Vishwamitra's yagna is so powerful that Trishanku starts to rise towards the heavens. The gods in the heavens, Indra, they're so worried that if Trishanku enters into the heavens, all of the structure, all of the management of all the different realms and the worlds will be thrown off. They take Trishanku, turn him upside down, and throw him back towards earth. And as Trishanku is falling towards earth, Vishwamitra raises his hands and he says, Tishta, stop. Trishanku is upside down. The Devtas, Indra, etc., they come onto this earth and they pray to Vishwamitra. They say, don't finish this sacrifice. We have to come to some other compromise. Because if you send him to heaven, we'll have to let him in. But if we let him in, it'll throw off all of the other structure that we've already established. Vishwamitra says, what middle ground do we have? The Devtas say, Trishanku wants to go to heaven with his body. He can't go to that heaven, but how much tapodhan do you have left? Vishwamitra counts however much spiritual wealth he's left to use, and he says, you have so much spiritual wealth through your difficult penances. Why don't you use that to create another heaven specifically just for Trishanku? And with that, Vishwamitra uses whatever tap that he has left, whatever penance and austerities he has left, and he creates a separate heaven for King Trishanku and makes him the Indra of it. Even today, in this world, we have this earth that we walk on. There is a Swarg where Indra lives, and in between the two realms, there is a Swarg, a heaven where Trishanku reigns solely. But now that Vishwamitra has used all of his energies behind this, he's empty. So he goes back into the forest. Another 1,000 years, he performs very difficult penance in the forest, in a place called Pushkar. And at that time, there was a king by the name of Ambrish. Ambrish was holding a grand sacrifice. And in that sacrifice, he wanted to sacrifice a certain amount of animals. Somebody stole the animals. So in place of the animals, he was so angry, King Ambrish, he decided to sacrifice a boy, a human. He grabbed a boy, and as the boy was being dragged towards the sacrifice, the boy saw Vishwamitra performing his meditation and penance. The boy called out to Vishwamitra, save me, save me. Vishwamitra, he looked to his own sons, and he said, one of you exchange spots with the boy. The son said, Father, is that really the way? You're sacrificing your own for somebody else? And Vishwamitra thought, oh, these are my children. But then he had nothing left to do, so he cursed his children. He said, you people are all like this. I curse all of you to suffer now. And in that process, he used all of his penance. He couldn't use any of his penance to save the boy, so he taught the boy two different mantras, two couplets to pray to Indra and Vishnu. The boy, he prayed to Indra and Vishnu saved him. Afterwards, Vishwamitra adopted the boy. The boy's name was Shunasep. Now Vishwamitra is back to square one, back at zero. He goes back into the forest, and this time he doesn't take any of his children with him. He doesn't take anyone with him. He wants to be completely alone so that he can focus his energies on just enlightening himself. And for 1,000 years, he works towards it. Spiritual enlightenment. And as he's earning this spiritual wealth, Indra starts to get worried that if he earns so much more, he's already done so much. Who's to be sure about what he'll do in the future? So Indra sends one of his nymphs by the name of Menka to entice Vishwamitra. Menka comes near Vishwamitra while he's meditating, and the noise from her bangles wakes Vishwamitra up. He sees her beauty, and all of a sudden, desire overcomes him. He holds on to Menka's hand and he prays that, will you marry me? Menka says, fine. And then for 10 years, they spend all day together. They enjoy the sense pleasures, and for 10 years, Vishwamitra doesn't pray. He forgets all of his daily rituals, his puja, his arti, everything is gone. 10 years pass in this way, and one morning Vishwamitra wakes up and he realizes that there's no spiritual wealth left. He's lost it all to just fulfilling his desires. He tells Menka that this is it, I'm separating from you. Menka just shrugs her shoulders, that's why I came in the first place. She leaves. After Menka leaves, Vishwamitra makes it firm in his mind that no longer am I going to give in to my desires. Vishwamitra goes back and he does 1,000 years of penance. And as he's trying to finish his ritual, there has to be a small ritual to conclude that penance. Indra comes as the form of a beggar and he says to Vishwamitra, Bhiksham Dehi, give me something in a donation. Vishwamitra says, ask for whatever you want. Whatever I have, if you want it, you can have it. Indra says, I want you to give me this food and these grains. Now those were all things that he needed to complete his final ritual. But without getting angry, Vishwamitra gives it all to Indra. At that point, he had accumulated 1,000 years of spiritual wealth, but he wasn't able to finish it with the ritual and deposit it into the bank. Vishwamitra then goes back into the forest. Another 1,000 years of spiritual penance. And at the end, Brahmaji comes to him. And Brahmaji says, you have now defeated all of your lesser instincts. You have now defeated all of your base desires. You have defeated desire. You have defeated anger. You have overcome all of your natures. Now you are a Brahmarshi. And from that point onwards, Brahmaji gave Vishwamitra a location in the Saptarshi. He made him enlightened. Vishwamitra immediately got up and he went towards Vashisht Muni's ashram. People were concerned in the ashram, why is he here? Vashisht saw him, folded his hands. Vishwamitra came to him and touched his feet. When you have purity on the inside, everything disappears. One enlightened state is greater than any other power of the outside world. This is very hard. Vishwamitra's example sounds almost like exaggeration, that he spent thousands and thousands and thousands of years doing it. But it's actually not exaggeration, it's an understatement. Think about our lives. If you get angry just once in this life, once in 50 years, what about once last life? That's twice. And once 2 lives ago, that's 3 times. But you and me, we've been born infinite lifetimes. And if we've been born infinite times, that means infinite times we've gotten angry. The nature of anger has become seared into our souls. And that's just one example. Same goes for greed and lust and jealousy and spite, all of these things. Now, if we're trillions and trillions and trillions in debt, how hard would we have to work to get out of it? There's almost no way. It seems impossible. But there is a way. Let me give you an example first. The Vietnam War took place in America from 1955 to 1975. The Americans fought in the Vietnam War. 4 presidents fought in the war until the 5th finally called back the army. At that time, Henry Kissinger was the security advisor for the United States. And he explained that we went into this war thinking it was a normal war. In a normal war, you have to win. The winner wins and the loser loses. But the people of Vietnam came into this war not playing by the rules of a normal war. They came into this war fighting with the rules of a guerrilla war. In guerrilla warfare, you just don't have to lose. Every person in Vietnam had decided in their minds, we're going to fight until every person in this country is dead. For them, not losing was winning. For us, we had to win to win. And we don't have the resources to continue against a guerrilla war. In the same way, when we fight against our natures, don't try to fight against them like normal warfare. This is a guerrilla war. We don't have to win to win. We just have to not lose to win. Bhagwan Swaminarayan and Sri Krishna Bhagwan both explain that if you're fighting against your baser instincts, and in the process you don't win, God knows that you continue to fight. God knows that you are trying your hardest until your very last breath. And what are the benefits of that? Krishna Bhagwan tells Arjun that if you die in the process, Shuchitam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Bijayate, you're on the path of yoga, you fell from it. In your next life, you will attain it. The only way to get out of trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of debt is for someone to forgive it. In the same way, constant effort to overcome our inner natures is the only way to earn God's grace so that He can forgive it. I'll end with one anecdote told by our Guru Yogi Ji Maharaj. Yogi Ji Maharaj used to explain, imagine a small boy standing under a mango tree. He's too short to reach the fruit itself, but he jumps. Now, how long does he have to jump before he can reach it? If he jumps for an hour, he won't reach it. If he jumps for 10 hours, he won't reach it. There is no amount of time that the boy can jump for him to reach the mango. Yet, he jumps. Now, as he's jumping, someone taller comes by. Mota. Someone bigger. Mahapurush. That person comes by and he sees that the boy wants a piece of fruit. So that man easily breaks off the fruit and gives it to the boy. The question now is, how long does the boy have to jump to get to the fruit? He can jump all he wants, he'll never reach the fruit. But if the boy never jumps, will he get the fruit? No. He has to jump so that the Mahapurush sees that he wants it. In the same way, on our own, no matter how hard we try to defeat our inner natures, it's just jumping. But by jumping, God and our Guru see that we really want to overcome them. And when they join our side in the war, then they can instantly forgive all of our sins, forgive us for all of our natures, and by their divine grace, we can overcome them. I pray that through this process, we can all overcome our true enemies of our inner desires. Astu.